When you get involved with spirituality, it can very quickly move from crystals and rainbows to feeling like you are literally losing your mind. And if you're not careful, you can very quickly end up in dangerous psychological territory. And that's why I want to take a little bit in this video today to share with you some simple pointers that can help you to remain grounded and peaceful throughout the spiritual awakening process. Because believe it or not, a lot of us aren't equipped with these simple methods and techniques that allow us to remain clear and coherent throughout the spiritual awakening process. Because when spiritual awakening happens, it completely transforms your life. Now, before I get into these pointers here, I want to share a little bit about my spiritual awakening and just why I'm making this video right now. So about 8 years ago, I was 16 years old when I had my first spiritual awakening. And it was a spiritual awakening that set my life on a trajectory that would eventually lead to this moment right now, of the creation of my YouTube channel and a complete shift in the way I was living my life. And at the time, I did not see it coming, even in the slightest little bit. It completely took me by surprise. It swept the ground out from under my feet, and I didn't know what was what. And now this came about for me personally through the use of psychedelics and involving myself with Eastern mysticism. And what happened was I began experiencing things that I wasn't at the time ready to experience. It was Carl Jung who said, "Beware of unearned wisdom," and that statement right there is going to be the key staple statement in this video, is that when you get involved with spirituality, you can initially get involved with it as this sort of fascination. It's this interesting thing that offers a different view of reality than the one you'd been raised in. But very quickly things can start to happen a little bit faster. It's like a snowball effect. Things start happening much faster than you anticipated, and you don't know how to find the brakes, and before you know it, your entire life is almost unrecognizable to what it was just a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, or a year ago. Things start to change so quickly. And what it was for me, that's cool, there's a hummingbird over there. That's beautiful. What it was for me was I began to experience profound transformations in my sense of self. I started realizing that who I think I am is an illusion, that Devin isn't really who I am, and what I am is actually reality itself, and that's what everybody and everything is reality and awareness and consciousness. And I was realizing that I'm not necessarily this concrete, real being that I thought I was, and I was experiencing episodes of rapture, sort of divine ecstasy with whatever God is. I didn't know what the hell it was. All I knew was I would be sobbing and moved to tears and completely brought into this inner world of spiritual absorption. It was mystical experiences, and I was realizing time is an illusion, and birth and death are an illusion, and my thoughts are not who I am, and what I am is awareness, and all this profound stuff, and realizing that everything is this sort of, what we think the world is just that, an idea. Now, I'm not going to go off on a limb here talking about my personal spiritual experiences and the way it all kind of happened for me, but the reason I share that is because what happened to me in that time is I became very ungrounded. I lost my ground. I started to become very uneasy and very, I guess I could put it as existentially disoriented. I didn't know what my role was. I didn't even necessarily know who I was. I wasn't sure of what the hell reality even was anymore. And the way this like the consequences of this for me was developing a bit of a sort of spiritual ego, a sort of spiritual narcissism, if you will, where I thought that I knew what things were. But the reason I thought I knew and felt like I had to go around and preach and tell everybody else what I know like it's gospel was from a deep existential insecurity within myself that came from the fact of having my reality completely turned upside down. So spirituality is no joke. Like I was saying a moment ago, when you initially get into spirituality, it can be fun and exciting and different, and you feel like you've sort of discovered this thing that adds value and meaning and purpose to your life in a very magical and mystical and divine kind of way. And it's very exciting. But spirituality, as stated in the beginning, is not just crystals and rainbows and affirmations and tarot cards and smudging sage. That is literally the tip of the iceberg when it comes to spirituality. And everything I just named, affirmations and crystals and all this stuff, those are just methods. Those are gross physical expressions of a deeper thing, which is what spirituality actually is. And that leads me to my first pointer here, which is that spirituality and a spiritual awakening, moreover, is a fundamental transformation of your actual being. Spirituality isn't something you learn about. Spirituality isn't something you go out and do. You don't go out and do spirituality or learn about spirituality like you would, I'm going to go on a hike, or I'm going to go do this sport, or I'm going to go for a walk. You don't go out and get spiritual. You don't learn about spirituality like you would go out to college and learn about whatever field that you learn about in college. Spirituality is a very core transformation of you. The one who's watching this video right now, that is the one who changes in the midst of a spiritual awakening. Now, the way I often think of this fundamental transformation when it comes to spiritual awakening is that our spiritual growth, and with that, our spiritual awakening, is identical to the growth of our bodies as human beings. Here in this life, we are subject to growth and decay. And that growth is something, first of all, that you're not doing. You don't have to apply will and effort and learn about how to grow your hair and beat your heart and pump your blood and breathe and all this stuff. It's happening naturally. And not only is it happening naturally, but you can sort of flip the perspective around a little bit and realize you are subject to it. It's happening. You can't stop it. You are growing, and you are going to die. You are going to decay. That is the very same thing when it comes to spiritual awakening, where you have no more say over spiritual awakening than you do over the growing and decaying of your own body. It's something that happens naturally. Now, trying to learn more spiritually or trying to stop the spiritual awakening is akin to trying to grow your body faster, trying to develop your body faster, or when you start to age, trying to stop the aging process. We have all these cute and fancy methods to try and stop and prevent the aging, but as you all know, it doesn't hold up because we are subject to change in this life. And that is the very same thing when it comes to our spiritual awakening. It's not something you're doing. It's not something you chose to get involved with and are choosing to develop. Like going out to the gym and choosing to work on certain muscles, or going to college, as I stated a moment ago, and choosing to learn about this particular field of study. Spiritual awakening is something you are subject to in the same way you're subject to growth and decay. So the idea in sharing this with you is to realize that spiritual awakening is something that gets set in motion, and it creates a momentum that is on its own course. Your spiritual awakening is dancing to the beat of its own drum, and it's something you need not worry yourself in increasing or decreasing or speeding up or slowing down. There is no rush when it comes to this process. So sharing this with you is to sort of emphasize, to relax into it. It's happening perfectly. You're not doing anything wrong. It's completely natural. And although things are arising in the midst of a spiritual awakening that seem everything but natural, the process by which it's happening and the sort of the authority and the driving force and power of that awakening is something that's out of your control. It's God. It's divinity, it's spirit, it's happening naturally, and you don't need to worry yourself in where you are on it. Am I spiritually progressing enough? Oh my God, this is going too fast. I need to slow it down. What do I need to do next? Don't worry about that. Realize that spiritual awakening is as natural as your growth and your existence here on this earth. And before I move on to the next point here, let me stress one more time that spirituality is not the object. Spirituality is not wearing beads, although I'm here wearing beads. Spirituality is not incense and crystals and tarot cards and stuff on the outside. Spirituality is not the object. Spirituality is the subject. It's the one looking out of your eyes right now. That is the one to whom the awakening happens to. And you don't need to do anything to make it happen. It's completely natural. So moving on to the second pointer here, what I have listed is to stop consuming so much information. I remember when I first got into spirituality, it was so new, it was so exciting, and also simultaneously so alarming that all I was doing was reading all the holy books and reading all of the texts and the information of the teachers who associated with the kind of spiritual awakening I was having. And my entire YouTube algorithm was videos telling me, you are God, you don't exist, develop in this way. This is, it was all this information that I couldn't even get away from it. I couldn't have had a normal moment if I wanted to. And it was because I threw myself in to this field and this ocean of information, because it was what I was using to try and rationalize and make sense of what was happening to me. Now, although that's a good and healthy thing to do, you can very quickly start to get out ahead of yourself and start consuming all this stuff that you're not ready or need to digest. I'll state it again, that Carl Jung said, beware of unearned wisdom. When you start awakening, you get very ambitious. You want to learn. You want to understand what's happening. You want to maybe grow quicker, awaken quicker. So you start reading all the books and going to all the courses and watching all the videos and going to all the holy sites and doing all this stuff in an attempt to sort of force feed more information to act as a backbone to this awakening thing that's happening to you. But you can here, let me ask you this. What happens when you eat too much food? You get nauseous, you get sick, maybe you puke. And the same thing goes with our spiritual diet as well when it comes to consuming all this information. You don't need to flood your system with more and more and more information. Now, when you have a spiritual awakening, or you are possibly, as you watch this video, in the process of a spiritual awakening, oftentimes the way that it plays out is like running 100 amps through a system that can only handle 50. And what happens when you run 100 amps through something that can only handle 50 is it fries the system. So what needs to happen here is an upgrading of your hardware to be able to handle the ampage, or the voltage, if you will, of the spiritual awakening that's happening to you. Now, this can take place through learning and integrating, but there's a lot of stress on the integrating part there, is that it's not about just going out and reading everything and learning everything and being able to recite the scriptures and knowing all the spiritual words and all the phrases and knowing the right thing to say. See, that's a hallmark of the ego and the rational mind, is that it'll learn how to say something in a spiritual way, and it'll learn the right things to say, and then it'll spit it up anytime it's faced with a situation that brings about that response. The ego will learn the right things to say, the right ways to think in the spiritual way. But you're sort of wearing the information like a garment, like a coat. It's not coming from your core. And the core is the place that the spiritual awakening is happening. So be weary of consuming loads of information, because not only can you sort of intellectually get out ahead of yourself, but you can also make yourself a little bit nauseous from eating too much. So take the time to integrate things. Learning is a powerful and profound way to to put a face to the things that you're experiencing. Maybe watching this video right now is serving that purpose for you. But when you click off this video, maybe don't go and watch several more videos about the same thing, but maybe take a moment to sit down or go for a walk or clean your house or just carry on with your day and sort of let it marinate a little bit. Don't force feed information into your mind in this very vulnerable time that you're in as you're awakening. And you'll thank me later. For the third pointer here, I have to reach out and find support from friends and local groups and online courses and online sessions. And this in spiritual, in Hinduism, it's called satsang. And in Buddhism, it's called the sangha. And what it is, it simply translates to the spiritual community. Now, right now, as you watch this video, if you're resonating with this, if you're vibing with this, if you can relate to what I'm sharing, if it's helping you, I am the satsang or the sangha to you right now. And that sense of alleviation and comfort and solace that you find in finding other people who are going through the same things as you or have maybe already gone through it and are able to sort of teach you and guide you along the path a little bit, of course, there's a deep power in that. There's a deep comfort in that, and it's very important. Because when we have a spiritual awakening, there's no denying that people around us, a majority of the people around us, are not associated with the things that we're awakening to. And very quickly you can fall away from friend groups and fall away from hobbies and activities that you used to associate yourself with because it no longer resonates with the energy that you're awakening to. And you can quickly start to feel alone and isolated and like alienated from everything around you. You know, this is called the dark night of the soul. This is only one aspect of the dark night of the soul, I must add. But it's very important to find people and fellow human beings who are walking the path home with you. Now you go on YouTube or you look up like local groups and clubs and activities that are going on around you. Meditation clubs or yoga clubs or I'm calling them clubs, but I don't know what the hell they're called, but just communities of like-minded individuals that you can regularly contact, whether that's physically or virtually or whatever it is. Being able to find people who are on the same path as you and who are able to reflect back to you different perspectives of the thing that you're going through. Because it's all too easy to begin to feel alone on this spiritual awakening journey. But I want to emphasize to you, you're not alone. It's just a matter of finding your brothers and sisters who are on the path home with you. Pointer number 4 is to practice mindfulness and becoming aware of all the thoughts in your mind. Because when this spiritual awakening happens and we haven't developed and cultivated mindfulness, the mind and the thinking quality of ourselves can begin to get hyperactive and manic and sort of go on overdrive, where we're thinking and I'm having a thought, and what does this thought mean? And be mindful of this, and how do I progress in that? And what's this mean? And what's that? And I need to let go of that. And it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Now the mind is, as it said, a beautiful servant, but a lousy master. And if you don't have any distance or space between you, which I must add is the one who the spiritual awakening is happening to, and the contents of your mind, you're going to be led astray. You're going to be led astray. Because when you awaken, like I said a while ago, it's like running more energy through you than you know how to handle. And that causes the mind to kind of go a little bit haywire for a while. You can feel insane, you can feel crazy, you can feel depressed, you can feel, maybe you think you're the chosen one or something wild like that. And you don't have a space from those concepts and those frameworks of thinking. So you begin to believe them and you follow them along. You follow them along like somebody pulling a dollar on a fishing hook or something like that. And you follow it right along. And next thing you know, you've acted in ways and have done things and said things that have created a life that is not conducive to your well-being. All because you don't have that distance between you and your mind. So practice meditation, where you sit down, or maybe you go for a walk in nature, and you just observe. Become aware of the senses. What do you feel? What do you see? What do you hear? Feel yourself walking. Feel yourself breathing. Feel yourself experiencing reality. Forget about the thoughts about it all. Come into the essence of being, the sensual experience of reality. Look, hear, feel. Recognize that the thoughts are like a river going by, and you don't need to believe them. You don't even need to listen to them. And oftentimes, they're abstractions from truth. They're not, it might not be in your best interest to listen to them or to believe them or to act on them. And it's absolutely critical to develop this space and this moment of pause, this moment of contemplation between you and what you're thinking. The mind is where you're thinking about who you are. But who you are is watching that mind. And right when you notice that distinction, right when you notice that separation, it creates a complete liberation of energy, where you realize that the mind is not the master. The mind is a servant. It's offering things. It's saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Should we do this? How does this sound? And it's up to you and your discretion to deliberate accordingly. And the more you develop mindfulness, the more you're able to act from a place of clarity and harmony and tranquility. Pointer number 5 is understanding that fear and paranoia and sort of existential depression or terror and things like dissociation and derealization and depersonalization, these really freaky, far out things, understanding that these are symptoms of the spiritual awakening and they don't point to something being clinically, psychologically wrong with you. You know, somebody goes into a therapist here in America and they say, I feel like I'm watching my life like a movie. And the therapist says, oh no, you're dissociated, here's some pills to fix that. Whereas if you go to India and you go to a sage or a sadhu or a yogi and you say, hey man, I feel like I'm watching my life like a movie. He says, you're doing great, keep going. Vast difference, man, vast difference. This took me a long time to realize, is that those feelings of being separate from yourself, or feeling like your reality is a dream and it's an illusion and it's not really real, and feeling like you're dissociated from reality, or feeling like you're just falling, you're just free falling and there's no ground and you don't know what's left from right and all this far out stuff. It took me a long time to realize that it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. It's the process of awareness, human awareness, right now, awakening to itself. And it's a far out process. It's why a lot of us are asleep, because when we get little glimpses of this awakening, it terrifies us and we run away from it, we snub it out, we push it away, we say, oh my God, that was horrifying. Like if you take psychedelics and you realize, oh my God, I'm not who I think I am. I don't exist. Time isn't what I thought it was. Reality isn't as real and concrete as I thought it was. A lot of people don't like that recognition. So they push it away and they go back to living in the concepts and the model of thinking that they've developed over the decades or however long they've been alive. But I really want to emphasize to you here that these feelings, these strange, mystical feelings you're having, and they will induce a lot of terror, a lot of fear, a lot of paranoia. You might think you're schizophrenic or psychotic or losing your mind, as I stated in the beginning. Now, obviously, it's very important to consider how you're responding to these things that are arising within you. Where if you think you need serious help, don't hesitate and go and get it. But if you're somebody that's casually and modestly awakening and starting to realize, damn, I'm not who I thought I was. Time isn't what I thought it was. Reality isn't what I thought it was. I feel like I'm kind of watching my life like a movie and I'm not really in control. If you can keep your ground and listen to me here, I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with you. It's the process of your awareness awakening to the mystery of this reality. And if you can stay grounded and clear and steadfast in staying grounded and clear, that terror, that uncomfortability around those sensations and perceptions will begin to dissipate. And you will begin to understand it and sort of incorporate it and integrate it into just the way you are. Where somebody says, damn dude, time isn't real, time isn't what I thought it was. And you, because you've integrated it, you're like, yeah, no shit, dude. Yeah, time is an idea, man. Or if somebody says, dude, I feel like I'm watching my life like a movie. It's like, yeah, dude, you're realizing that what you are is the awareness witnessing everything. You start to level up into it, but that only happens if you can hold your ground. Hold the ground. Don't act irrationally here. Don't make rash decisions. Don't believe everything the mind is saying. Witness. Develop the witness consciousness. And once again, you'll thank me later. So for my final pointer here, I want to emphasize understanding the importance and the function of the normal, or the mundane, if you will. Where when you awaken, man, it's everything but normal. You've come out of normality. You've come out of the mundanity. Now you feel like a alien in your own skin, or you feel like you're realizing your unity with God, or you're realizing the lack of concrete separateness between you and reality. You're realizing what you are is awareness and all this wild stuff. And very quickly, it can start to get a little weird to go back to your day job, or to give the money to the cashier, or to come back home to your family and your kids that think you're daddy or mommy. And you're like, this little being right here thinks I'm mommy or daddy, but I don't even know who I am anymore. You know? So I want to emphasize the importance of the normality and the mundanity, because as you continue on in the spiritual journey, you're going to begin to crave those profound, mind-melting, mystical experiences. But then when they happen, you realize you're not as ready for them as you thought you were, and you go running back to the normality. And it's this cycle. This is something I've seen numerous times in my life, where I'll go a few months in the normal, in the mundane, and I'm like, man, I really want God. I really want that unity awakening. I really want bliss and existential ecstasy. But then it happens, and I'm sobbing my eyes out in the parking lot of a grocery store because God is so beautiful. And I start to push back from it. I start to push it away a little bit, you know? So we can lose our ground very quickly here on the spiritual journey. And it's said, remember God, know God, but remember your zip code, Don't lose your ground, man. Don't forget about your family. Don't forget about your job. Don't forget about your role as a human being here in this life. Because very quickly we can float off into la la land. Next thing we know, we lose our job and we're homeless and our family abandons us because they're like, why the hell is daddy like obsessed with God all of a sudden and all this stuff. So play it cool. Play it cool. Spirituality isn't about going bonkers. Spirituality is about realizing the gift of the mystery of reality. So this is a short and brief video, but hopefully impactful and helpful video for you if you're going through a spiritual awakening. This is something I could spend hours talking about, but I just wanted to share this with you guys to share some simple pointers to help you remain grounded and steadfast and clear in your spiritual journey. Thank you so much for watching, and I do want to add real quick, I'm offering completely free coaching sessions on Zoom right now, and if this video resonates with you, if you're experiencing something that you want to talk to me personally about, go to the top of my YouTube channel. You're going to see a link that says Beta Coaching Program, and it's in there that you'll be able to sign up for a completely free 1 hour long session with me on a date that you choose. So before you click off this video, do your boy a favor, leave a like. It makes these videos go so far. If you like this content, subscribe to the channel. I post videos like this every single week. And with that said, I will see you all in the next video.